The estate meeting began, while the reception for Grandma Ruth was still going on downstairs. From the dining room, I could hear the soft clatter of plates, the low murmur of condolences, and the occasional burst of laughter that people use to survive grief. But upstairs, in Ruth's old dining room, the atmosphere felt like someone had drained the warmth out of the house and replaced it with fluorescent light. 14 relatives squeezed around the table where we'd eaten Thanksgiving just 2 months before. The serving dishes had been washed but not put away, stacked near the sink like the house itself hadn't caught up to what happened. A vase of lilies sat in the center, already drooping at the edges. Uncle Victor took the seat at the head of the table as if it belonged to him. He laid out papers in crisp stacks and clicked a pen with impatient rhythm. "Let's keep this efficient," he said. "Mom's assets need to be inventoried and distributed according to her will. Equal shares among her 4 children. No drama. No drama. At a funeral, in the same breath as assets. I wasn't one of the 4 children. I was here because my mother Victor's sister had asked me to come. Just watch," Mom had whispered earlier, eyes red and exhausted. "Your uncle will try to claim something. I need a witness who won't fold." So I sat in the corner chair with a cup of bitter coffee and said nothing while Victor turned grief into a checklist. "The primary residence," he read. "The rental duplex on Maple Street. The half-acre lot near Roosevelt High." He spoke like a man reading stock prices, not closing the life of a woman who used to slip cookies into our pockets and pretend it was a secret mission. Then he flipped a page and said it. "And the lake house at 77 Willow Bay Road. Appraised value approximately $425,000, the most valuable single asset." My cup froze halfway to my mouth. Cousin Brianna, Victor's oldest daughter, leaned forward instantly. "I want the lake house," she said. "My kids love it. We've done every reunion there. It makes sense." Cousin Evan, my Aunt Marlene's son, shook his head. "No, it should be sold and split. That's fair. We all get about $100,000. Aunt Marlene nodded like she'd been waiting for someone to do the math out loud. "Selling would be clean," she added. "No fighting over weekends and maintenance." My heartbeat steadied into something cold. "That's my house," I said. The words weren't loud. They didn't need to be. They landed like a dropped glass. Silence snapped across the room. Then Victor laughed short, dismissive, the kind of laugh designed to make you question your sanity. "Sweetheart," he said, "no, that's Mom's lake house. It's been in the family for 40 years. Several heads nodded, relieved to file my statement under confused, grieving relative. I set my coffee down carefully so nobody could see my hand tremble. "It was Grandma's," I said. "I bought it from her 6 years ago. It's mine." The silence returned, thicker now. My mother stared at me as if she'd just realized I'd been hiding a second life. "You bought it?" she whispered. Aunt Marlene's eyebrows climbed. Brianna's mouth tightened. Victor's smile disappeared. He tapped his papers. "I have the complete asset list from Mom's attorney," he said. "The lake house is listed right here." "Then the list is wrong," I answered. "Because the deed was recorded with the county in April 2019, I paid $285,000. I have mortgage statements, property tax records, and insurance policies in my name for 6 years." Evan scoffed. "Grandma would never sell." "She did," I said, "because she wanted to." Victor's face reddened. "This is ridiculous," he snapped. "We're talking about family property." "No," I corrected, keeping my voice calm. "We're talking about my property that you just tried to add to an estate inventory without even checking ownership. I'd known this would happen someday. Not this exact day, not this exact table, but the shape of it. Family assuming entitlement, then acting betrayed when the assumption collapses. 6 years earlier, Grandma Ruth had called me on a Tuesday afternoon. She was 81, sharp as a tack, and tired of pretending. "Leah," she said, my childhood nickname, "I'm done managing that lake house. The taxes and insurance alone are $8,000 a year, and I'm there twice a summer. Your uncles keep insisting I keep it for the family, but they don't pay the bills. They just make plans." She paused, then added with a dry little laugh, "Victor talks about inheriting it like he's already living there." She told me she wanted to downsize, keep cash for comfort, and avoid a public sale because it would ignite war. "So I'm offering it to you," she said. "Below market. You pay what I need to be comfortable. You get a place you actually use. We keep the peace." I asked if she was sure. She said she'd never been more sure of anything. I scraped together a down payment. I got approved for a mortgage. We did the sale through attorneys. Grandma had her own lawyer, her own notary, her own say in every paragraph. She kept her key. We didn't change a thing about how the family used the place. Reunions continued. Fishing trips continued. Weekend getaways continued. The only difference was that I paid for everything, quietly. When the dock needed replacing last summer, it was $11,200. I paid it. When a storm damaged the roof, it was $18,500. I paid it. When the septic system failed, it was $11,500. I paid it. No one asked why the utilities never shut off. No one wondered who insured the property. They treated upkeep like weather. It just happened. Back in the dining room, Victor was still sputtering. "Even if you bought it," he said, "Mom shouldn't have sold it privately. That isn't fair to everyone else." "She could sell her property to whoever she wanted," I replied. "And I paid a fair price. The sale was legal. I've maintained it for 6 years while you all used it for free." Brianna's voice jumped an octave. "Used it for free? It's a family house." "It's my house," I said, "that I allowed family to use." Aunt Marlene leaned forward, eyes narrow. "Be reasonable. Your grandmother intended that house to benefit everyone. Just because you took advantage of her when she was old." "Took advantage?" I echoed. "I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I bought a property she wanted to sell. I've covered every expense. I never charged any of you rent. And now you're trying to liquidate my asset as part of an estate that does not include it." My mother finally found her voice. "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because of this," I said, gesturing at the table. "Because I knew the moment anyone heard the word lake house, you'd stop grieving and start shopping." Victor stood abruptly. "We'll see about that," he said. "I'm calling Mom's attorney right now." "Please do," I said. "Ask him to pull the deed from the county records. And ask him why he put a property on an estate list without verifying who owned it." He left the room with his phone already to his ear. The rest of the family stared at me like I'd confessed to fraud, not defended myself from it. The narrative was forming in real time. Leah stole the lake house. Leah hid it. Leah is greedy. What none of them wanted to admit was simpler. They had built plans on something they did not own, and my silence had allowed their fantasy to feel real. Victor returned 20 minutes later, face carefully blank. "The attorney confirms the property at Willow Bay Road was sold in 2019 to Leah Hart," he said, each word tasting like defeat. "It's not part of the estate." Brianna snapped. "How much did you pay? Because if you got a sweetheart deal..." $285, I said. "About 15% below market at the time. Fair for a private family sale. Today, it's worth around $425. The equity came from time and improvements I paid for," Evan muttered. "So you've been lying to us for 6 years." "I never lied," I said. "Nobody asked. You assumed." Aunt Marlene's voice cooled into something sharp. "The right thing would be to put that house into the estate. Honor your grandmother's memory. Honor this family." "The right thing," I repeated, "would have been verifying the inventory before you tried to divide my property. The right thing would have been not assuming you were entitled to something you never confirmed." Brianna's eyes glistened, anger masquerading as heartbreak. "So that's it? You're just keeping it? What about the traditions? The reunions?" "You're welcome there," I said. "Same as before. The only difference is, you now know who's been paying for the privilege." Victor tried one last angle. "We could contest the sale. Undue influence. Mom was elderly. Grandma was 81 and fully competent," I said. "She had her own attorney. I have her doctor's cognitive assessment from 2 weeks before the sale. I have emails showing she initiated the conversation. Contest it if you want. The deed will still say my name." That ended the debate, because facts don't negotiate with entitlement. Probate continued without the lake house. After debts, the remaining estate was about $380,000, split 4 ways. My mother received $95,000. So did Victor, Marlene, and my other uncle, Raymond. What they did not receive was the lake house they'd been mentally spending for years. Victor stopped speaking to me. Marlene sent a long email about betrayal and family values. Brianna unfriended me on social media and told mutual cousins I'd stolen Grandma's legacy. Evan, practical as ever, texted 2 weeks later asking if he could still reserve the house for his anniversary weekend. I stared at that message and felt something settle inside me. This was the truth of it. They didn't want the house for memories. They wanted it for access. Yes, I texted back. Same rules as always. 6 months after probate closed, I refinanced. Lower rate, smaller payment. The bank appraiser valued the house at $438,000. My equity was now mine on paper, just as it had always been in reality. I changed exactly one thing about the property. I installed a small plaque by the front door. Willow Bay House. Private property. Est. 2019. Nothing flashy. Just truth. In metal. A few days after the funeral meeting, Victor sent a group email with the subject line, Family Property Discussion. He attached a blurry scan of Grandma's old asset worksheet and wrote 3 paragraphs about responsibility and legacy. Then he ended with, we should all agree that the lake house belongs to the family, not any one individual. I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the county recorder's office on my lunch break and requested certified copies of the deed and transfer documents. The clerk stamped them with a heavy seal that made the truth feel physical. On the way back to my car, I stopped at a print shop and made a folder thick, organized, boring. The kind of folder that wins arguments. That weekend, Aunt Marlene called. She didn't start with condolences. She started with strategy. Leah, can we be practical? She said. Maybe you can sign something, put the house into a family trust, but keep living there. That way everyone feels respected. Everyone feels respected, I repeated, amused. Except the person who actually bought it. Her voice sharpened. Don't be sarcastic. This is bigger than you. No, I said, still calm. This is exactly as big as me. My mortgage, my taxes, my insurance, my repairs. You all enjoyed the benefits without the burden. She sighed theatrically. Family helps family. Family also asks permission, I replied. And family doesn't try to distribute property they don't own. She hung up. The next time I saw most of them was at my office building. I walked into the lobby after work and found Victor, Marlene, and Brianna sitting near reception like they'd staged it for maximum shame. Victor stood the second he saw me. We need to talk, he said, loud enough for strangers to hear. This situation is getting ugly. I set my bag down on a table and pulled out my folder. Great, I said. Let's talk with facts. Victor blinked at the thickness of it. I laid out the first page, the deed, stamped and certified, then the mortgage statement, then the property tax bill, then the insurance declaration page. These are 6 years of payments, I said. If you want to accuse me of taking advantage, explain why I paid every expense while everyone else vacationed. Marlene's mouth opened, then closed. Brianna looked away. Victor's face went pale, then red. You should have told us, he snapped. You should have asked, I answered. And you should have checked before you tried to count my house as your inheritance. A receptionist glanced over. Someone walked past and slowed down. Victor hated witnesses when he wasn't the one controlling the story. He lowered his voice. So what? You're going to punish the family? I'm going to protect myself, I said. That's not punishment. That's adulthood. For a long second, he didn't know what to do with that. Then he stood up straighter and tried one last performance. Mom would be ashamed, he said. The line was meant to cut. It almost worked. But then I pictured Grandma Ruth on the phone 6 years ago, tired of paying bills for other people's dreams. I don't think so, I said quietly. I think she'd be relieved someone finally respected her decision. Victor's eyes flicked, just for a moment, with something like fear because he knew I was right. I picked up my folder. If you want access, follow the rules, I said. If you want a lawsuit, file it. But don't expect me to fund your fantasies. I walked away while they sat in the lobby, surrounded by the kind of truth that doesn't care about family titles. 2 weeks after the meeting, my mother came to my apartment without calling. She stood in the doorway, holding a paper bag of groceries like an offering. I didn't know, she said, eyes swollen. I really didn't know you owned it. I know, I answered, because you never asked. She sat down slowly. Victor says you manipulated Mom. He says you pressured her. Victor can say whatever helps him sleep, I said. But he can't change recorded documents. My mother's hands twisted together. Why keep it from me, Leah? I held her gaze. Because you love peace more than truth, I said gently. And in our family, peace usually means I stay quiet so Victor stays comfortable. She whispered, I'm sorry. A week later, I sent a group message. You're welcome to visit Willow Bay House. Ask at least 2 weeks ahead. No surprise arrivals. Any damage is your responsibility. If these rules are ignored, access ends. Summer arrived, and the first test came fast. Cousin Brianna showed up without asking. My doorbell camera pinged my phone, her on the porch with kids and coolers, like the rules were a joke. I called her. You didn't ask. It's Grandma's house, she snapped. Don't do this. It isn't, I said, calm. And you know that now. Book a weekend like everyone else. She tried guilt. You're turning the kids away? I'm turning you away, I replied. Because you're teaching them boundaries don't matter when you want something. She stormed off, furious. I hated the scene, but I hated the lesson of surrender more. The first holiday after Grandma's death was tense. My mother hosted Christmas and tried to force normal back into the room with candles and Ruth's china. At dinner, Uncle Victor finally took a swing again. Listen to her, he scoffed, after someone mentioned the lake house. Like she's some saint. My mother put her hand flat on the table. Victor, stop. Silence fell. You tried to put a house you don't own into Mom's estate, she said, voice shaking but firm. At her funeral. Enough. Victor grabbed his coat and left, slamming the door. Nobody chased him. Later, at the sink, my mother whispered, I should have spoken up sooner. You can't change the past, I said. But you can stop repeating it. In the months after, the lake house grew quieter. Fewer family weekends. Fewer assumptions. More respect from the ones who still asked. And I learned what I wish I'd learned earlier. Boundaries don't destroy families. They reveal them. One evening in September, I sat alone on the dock watching the lake turn to glass. I thought about Grandma Ruth's voice, practical, steady, unafraid of the truth. My relatives didn't lose a lake house. They lost an illusion, the belief that wanting something makes it theirs. And the simplest truth is the one they hate most. I didn't take anything from them. I just stopped letting them take it from me. In October, I mailed each of the 4 siblings a copy of the final probate summary, not to gloat, but to close the loop. Along with it, I included a single-page letter. The lake house would remain available for family use, but only through written requests, scheduled dates, and a signed acknowledgement of my ownership. If anyone ignored the process, access would end for everyone. It wasn't punishment, it was a boundary system. 2 people replied with short, polite confirmations. 1 replied with silence. Victor replied with a single sentence, do what you want. I did, and the water stayed calm anyway. The next spring, I hosted one small weekend at Willow Bay for anyone who could show up without entitlement. Only my mother came. We cleaned the porch, repainted the rail, and planted 2 shrubs beside the steps. She told stories about Ruth I'd never heard, and I realized grief had been waiting behind all the arguing. Before she left, Mom ran her fingers over the plaque and sighed. Your grandmother would have liked this, she said. I nodded, because I finally believed it too, and that belief felt like inheritance.